What's happening, APLers? Back with a week 8 review. Missed the week 7 preview and week 8, or with the week 7 review and the week 8 preview, because the mouse were here and that consumed my life for a few days. But now we're back. We'll go through the matchups from this week and a little look at the stretch run here for the playoffs the next 6 weeks ahead. So, first matchup is me versus Ryan. Here. So Jamar Chase is the guy here. So my team had a decent week. Had a lackluster game from Dak with some fourth quarter heroics to get him up to 287, as it wasn't too great of a game. And CD was the recipient of most of that fourth quarter stuff. So the new guy on the roster gets up to 199. Super nice game. The running backs were fun. Achan back to being good with Tua back. So hopefully that guy can stay healthy. I saw a clip where Tua ran for a first down and slid, and like the whole stadium went crazy because he slid. So it was great. Hopefully he stays healthy. It's more fun. That team is way more fun for everybody when he's healthy. Mixon continues to do really good things. The Texans seem to be running a lot this year, and Mixon's been good all the weeks he's been healthy. Chase with an okay game at 83, hit a touchdown as the Bengals just kind of get blown out pretty much by the Eagles there. Hoping for more out of that. And then Drake London had a huge game against the Bucs the first time, and it was not the Drake London show this week for 38. Anyway, McBride was the show for the Cardinals against the Dolphins. He catches 9 passes for 124 yards for 257. Nice week. Fairbairn continues to kick a lot of field goals every week for 114 points. So 14-15 is the total for the week for me. Pretty happy with the week. Super nice. On the Ryan side of the ball, we have Josh Allen and Aaron Jones and Zach Ertz with some nice games. Jones seems like it could have just had more on Thursday night against the Rams. And I don't know. Got off to a decent start and just, like his offense just couldn't sustain drives and stuff. Josh Allen seems to be back to his fun ways that he was on last year, and allows Ryan to move him and Jones to say for a 5th rounder. So the rest of the rosters, nothing too exciting for Ryan. Bigsby is okay against the Packers, gets lots of carries in a close game for 88, and Tank Dell doesn't do too much, 59 points. Lazard gets a start, even though he wasn't active. It's kind of a surprise inactive on Sunday morning. Then Alec Pierce doesn't catch a deep ball and do much from Richardson. So Ryan puts up 929. He's in full sale mode here, and most of the pieces have been sold. There still might be some stuff left, but Ryan 3-5 now. Maybe you can pull Boot Barn of last year and pick up some scraps here. Made a bunch of roster moves today to pick up guys to improve the starting lineup. So maybe those guys will help him scrape by and sneak into the playoffs like Boot Barn last year. So I moved to 5-3. Ryan moves to 3-5. Next matchup is the super team. So super team takes on Daggy. It's a big matchup in over in our division. So Daggy beat the super team in week 1. So a win here for Daggy would have given him the season series. Would have knocked the super team down to 5-3. Moved Daggy to 5-3, and could have had a nice little 3-way tie. But the super team pulls through with the big win for him to distance himself a little bit with 6 weeks to go. So Burrow gets 285, not great there at all. It's fine. Just those are the games that sometimes you get from Burrow that you're just hoping for more. Gibbs had a super fun 70-yard touchdown run. The Lions were ahead by a lot at like halftime and didn't even need to try. But 154 points, it didn't need to try in the second half. 154 points is fun from Gibbs, and he's been really good the last few weeks. kind of accelerating at 204 in week 7, 154 last week. And looking at his point totals for the year, he's been really good. 98, 113, 123, 118, 94, 204, 154. So Ken Walker doesn't do too much. Seattle pretty much just gets pounded by Buffalo, and he catches a few passes, but they really don't even have a chance to get the run game going because they're behind by so much. So disappointing game from him. And the receivers, Olave and Devonta, rebound with good weeks. Devonta had -1 last week, and Olave gets 8 catches for 170 yards with Spencer Rattler / whatever the other guy's name is that came in halfway through. Waddle with 49, probably a little disappointing with Tua back there, but I think the super team just awaiting the return of Nico to get Waddle out of that line. Maybe there'll be a Josh Downs appearance now with Flacco at quarterback this week. An embarrassment of riches here at tight end for the super team. We've been rolling with Brock Bowers, who's been putting up some nice weeks. 121 this week is fine. Pretty good week, but he's had some bigger. He's had 196, 151, 222 the last 3, so 121 might be a little bit of a down week, but then there's this Kyle Pitts guy on the bench. 226 on the bench for Pitts. He's had 4 consecutive weeks where he's in the triple digits with a 183, a 143, a 137, and 226 after a slow start. So it's heating up. So Ross probably has some decisions there to figure out what he's going to do at tight end. Must be tough to be the super team. The Young Ho doesn't do too much. He misses a field goal, makes a field goal, some extra points. But super team's defense that we prioritized has been pretty much totally replaced. Roquan's the only one that's been drafted, but the Kyle Hamilton pickup was a nice one. He had 9 tackles and a sack and a fumble forced for 81 points. Nice pickup. On the Douge side of the ball, Jaden Daniels gets the super fun 52-yard Hail Mary to tack on another 73 points there at the end of the game, which is the 419 points is quite nice for a guy that we didn't think was didn't think was going to play a week. But Daggy holds out hope, gets him in the lineup, and has the guts to start him, even though he's banged up a little bit, and comes through for 419. Saquon, good, not great. Brees, probably below average for Brees. He'd been ridiculous the last few weeks. The Patriots matchup looked really strong, so 90 points is a bit of a letdown there for Brees. Definitely a letdown for the Jets, who lost to the Patriots, which is embarrassing. Pickens is kind of like what could have been. There's 2 touchdowns there that Pickens could have had. Makes things interesting in this matchup if those go through. But 78 for Pickens. He does look more involved with Russ at quarterback, so it's probably good for Deggy going forward. Amon-Ra gets just 29 points, 2 catches for 7 yards, touchdown there. Just a weird game where the Lions didn't need to throw the ball at all. Goff had like 150 points. So Xavier Worthy's in the lineup. He gets 61, gets a touchdown, just otherwise not super involved in the Chiefs offense. And then Ingram, lower game for him, still 96 points, but a lower game. And then Aubrey, this is his lowest game of the season by far with 44 points. He had 56 in week 3, and 88 in week 5. Otherwise, he's in triple digits every week. So a little off week for Aubrey, as the Cowboys didn't need to kick any field goals because they kind of couldn't, and then they needed to score touchdowns. So I think Diggy would look at this and goes, just kind of a wasted opportunity to take down the super team. So he loses Mike Evans and DK last week. Gets a 2 from Kenneth Murray. IDPs, 29 from Amon-Ra, and just not enough field goals from Aubrey. So definitely probably feels like there's some stuff left on the table, or this could have been a win, but it's not. Super team moves to 6-2, and Day's at 4-4. All right. So next matchup is Cade Otton. Yeah, that dude is like the new offense with everybody hurt in Tampa. So The story here, Greg gets his first win of the season. The commitment to continuing to try to find a lineup that is going to work and score points is impressive. So Craig puts up 1232 this week. Excellent score. I kind of was watching the Sunday night game kind of from I didn't watch it live. I was watching it in catch-up mode, so I wasn't looking at scores, and I just kept wondering if Kittle was doing enough to take the win away from Greg, but it wasn't quite there. So Greg makes a few starts here this week that pay off. So Sam Darnold rolls over Brock Purdy. So I think that's probably a little understandable with everybody hurt for the 49ers. Didn't know what was going to happen with Debo, and Ayuk is dead, and turns out that Purdy scored 374, so he was still fine. But Darnold rolls for 304 against the Rams. James Conner back in the lineup after being out of it last week. Just gets 91 points. And then Jonathan Taylor re-enters the lineup and gets 138. Nice game against the Texans, who've been pretty tough against the run. And then we get Ladd McConkey in the lineup for Greg here. So he produces a big game, 2 touchdowns, including a 60-yarder, 157 points. So this is a nice start by Greg. He hadn't been over 100 points yet this year. 92 is his high. He's been kind of hovering around 50 points for most of the season. So that one pays off. Puka is a kind of surprise active guy on Thursday night. Greg says, "What the fuck? Throw him in." And he looked good. He didn't play I think he played like 55% of the snaps, but still looked really good, really dominant. Did 7 catches for 106, still a couple of carries on the game, so it seemed like he was definitely ready to go. So get 118 points out of Puka is a nice get for Greg there too. Pittman at 17 kind of sucks. K. Dotton, though, the waiver wire pickup, he's been off and on Greg's team all year, but he looks like Mayfield's favorite target now with Godwin and Evans dead. So 211 for K. Dotton, huge game. 9 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns in there. So could be a force there for Greg or whoever Greg trades him to at some point if that's a thing. Kicker's fine, and the defense is pretty strong for Greg. It's Spillane with 42 and Jesse Bates with 61. So 1232, big number for Greg this week, and gets the first one on the board. On the Corey side, Corey rolls with Cousins over Mahomes. Gets 395 out of Cousins. Mahomes had 336, so it turns out to be the right start. We'll see if that's the plan going forward for Corey, or if that was just because it was against the Bucs, who struggle against the pass. Chubb seems to be working his way back. 16 carries, 52 yards against Baltimore. Baltimore's tough run defense, so you're not expecting too much there. Josh Jacobs goes crazy against the Jaguars, 166. 25 carries for Jacobs this week. Scores twice. This is kind of what you're hoping for when you draft him. A.J. Brown with an all right week. Just 5 catches for 84 yards, no touchdowns or anything. And Amari Cooper with a bit of a letdown this week in week 2 with the Bills. Just the 1 catch for 3 yards. TJ Moore, another disappointing week. Just 2 catches for 27 yards. The Bears offense could not move the ball at all against the Commanders, which is weird. Seemed like a good spot for Moore. But Kittle makes things interesting and goes nuts on Sunday Night Football with 6 catches for 128 yards, including a touchdown. So, they throw the 395 from Cousins, the 282 from Kittle, and the 166 from Jacobs together, and it's a formidable week for Corey. If you could have got a little more from Cooper or DJ Moore, maybe another field goal here or there, he could have snuck out a win here. So Greg moves to 1-7, and Corey moves to 4-4. All right. Next matchup here is Jake versus Tank. So Tank makes a couple trades during the week, trades away Kincaid, trades away CeeDee Lamb, and still sneaks out a win this week. So the competitive rebuild is underway and seems to be effective. So looking at Jake's lineup, it looks similar to how things have looked for most of the year. We get a big game from Lamar with almost 400 points, a solid game from Kamara, with 128. And Austin Seibert continues to kick a shitload of field goals and has 122 points. From there, it's mostly disappointing for Jake. Kareem Hunt is fine. He's getting a ton of carries, just not doing too much with them of late. Looked pretty effective early, but he had 21 carries for 59 yards, scored a touchdown to get up to the 84 points. Devontae doesn't do too much for the Jets, just 4 catches for 54 yards. Tyreek, 6 for 72 against the Cardinals. I think you're hoping for a deep ball, a little more than that from Tyreek, which I'm sure is coming. Jake sneaks in Tyler Lockett there as the third receiver with DK out, hoping to get some magic working there, but there wasn't any. Just 1 catch for 9 yards for Lockett. Ferguson is the big trade acquisition. Jake has David Njoku, just doesn't really like him. So 182 last week, 147 this week. Probably will find his way into the lineup this week, I would guess. But Ferguson disappoints with 6 catches for 23 yards, which seems really hard to do. So 1031 is the total for Jake. And Tink sneaks through with some big weeks here. So Gino's a letdown with 239, but James Cook and Kyron come through at running back. Kyron had the ball like nonstop on Thursday night, 141 points, scores a touchdown again. And then James Cook looked great against the Seahawks there. So he had 2 touchdowns, 111 yards rushing, and 3 for 22 on the ground. So looks really dynamic and great piece of the Bills offense. Wide receivers, a bit of a mixed bag there for Tank. Zay Flowers is on fire lately. 122 for Zay this week. Bit of a down week last week at 31, but he got hurt. Was out of the game for a little while last week. But other than that, 127, 143, 122. Zay Flowers looking very strong there for Tank. Jaden Reed looks good when he touches the ball, but they just don't get him the ball very much. They have just so many mouths to feed over there in Green Bay that Reed hasn't been reliable. He's had some big games, but this is another one where you're hoping for more. And Addison looks like the forgotten man there in the Vikings offense. Tucker Kraft has a big catch in there and puts up 179, including a touchdown. So he's had some really nice weeks too. So Tink survives the low output from Gino with big games. Big Cook, Kyron, Zay, and Tucker Kraft games to get to 1,100 and gets a win. Moves to 3-5. Last matchup of the week here is Solomon versus Sade. So I don't know. This week had a lot of surprises. So Greg gets his first win, maybe unexpected, and then this is probably a good discussion on which was more surprising, Solomon's win or Greg's win. So things aren't looking good for Solomon. Jordan Love leaves in the third quarter, and it looks like it's probably going to be a loss. I screwed up today's lineup here. I'm noticing this now. So Love puts up 199. JJ had the 123 on Thursday. Yeah, Romeo Dobbs is 75. So the early games are just going, man, this isn't really going to work. But we get 210 out of Kelsey and 81 out of Bucker. Bigger games in the afternoon session give Solomon some hope that things might go his way. So Najee comes through on that was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday night's game with the 134. So he's been extremely effective since it's been traded over to Solomon, even a little bit before. So Diggs loses his ACL in the game against the Colts, so that's a tough loss for Solomon, but potentially some more points there too. So, I mean, overall, Solomon gets a huge game out of Kelsey, nice game out of JJ, nice game out of Najee, and does enough to get 1,079 points. And today's team just can't quite get there. So I have CJ Stroud in a quarterback that's not. Yeah, it's Caleb Williams that's there. I tipped in the wrong name. So today debates, do I start Stroud against the Colts? They just ran over the Colts the whole first matchup there. We don't have Nico. let's start Caleb against the Commanders, who can't defend the pass. And it should have went the correct decision was to go the other way. Even if you plug in the 310 for Stroud, it still doesn't get the win per se. But a rough game for Caleb Williams where he has 174 points total, but got most of it towards the end. Looked really bad for a while. Derrick Henry has a down week for Henry with 98 there, so it's probably my fault because I picked him in our other little contest. Bijan for 133, been solid. And the receivers here for today are solid, but not great. So hoping for more out of Cooper Kupp. Didn't 76, but good to see him back. Neighbors gets a bunch on the last drive there to get his number up to 78. And then Brian Thomas is 83, but he gets injured in the game too. And then Kincaid, just 86 points there, 31 and a nice touchdown there just before halftime. Kicker is fine. TJ Watt's ridiculous to defense, but overall just 9-15 with the rough quarterback week and really no big splashes other than Bijan for anybody else. The interesting part is looking at today's bench here. So we have 310 from CJ Stroud. We have 149 from DeAndre Swift. We have 130 from Terry McLaurin. We have 146 from Cedric Tillman and 122 from Laporta. So plenty of production on the bench, and then Debo had 90 on IR too. So Solomon takes advantage of the down week from Sade and moves to 3-5, and Sade drops to 5-3. We'll look at the weekly scorers here. So that's the fun play of the week, maybe of the season so far. So look at the high scorers in week 8. Look at Jaden Daniels was the top quarterback. James Cook is the top running back. CD, a wide receiver, and Kittle for the second time was the top scorer at tight end. The worst scorers of the week, Caleb Williams, 174. Talked about him a little bit lately. Kenneth Walker, talked about him too. Lazard got a 0. And then Ferguson with 52. So Ferguson's been on there the last 2 weeks he's played, which is surprising. And then I noticed an error here in week 7 that Tank Dell and Debo at 0 is not the worst. It was actually Devonta Smith at -1. But anyway, weekly awards. We'll go with the MVP is Kate Otten for Greg. Huge week. 211 puts Greg over the top. Rodder of the week, I'll go with Amari Cooper for Corey. Just the 1 catch for 3 yards there is not what you're expecting. The no shit award probably goes to Greg for Latin Conkey. I just think JSN is probably the logical start there with DK out. I think that's going to be some added volume for JSN, but McConkey has a huge game there too. The wounded on that, that's an easy one, goes to Ryan for Alan Lazard, who's inactive. And should have started. I just put all of today's bench. Probably should. Would have been nice to have in the starting lineup. And the would have been good at Shamrock goes to Corey. Tough luck. Loser there with the 3rd highest score of the week and goes in the loss column. So we look at how our standings are shaping up here. In my division of the super team, leading the way at 6-2 with a nice 4-1 division record and a healthy amount of points scored. So third highest at this point. I'm trailing 1 game behind at 5-3. The 3-1 divisional record. Points are boosted with the big week from this week. And then Dag and Corey both at 4-4. Their Daggy has the advantage due to the head-to-head win, better divisional record too, and the points are a little bit of an advantage to Daggy over Corey there. Greg moves into the win column with 1-7. He's got the 1-4 divisional record there. Over on the other side, Jake leading the way at 6-2. Nice, healthy 4-1 division record, and points are, I think, middle of the pack-ish. Trying to count here. It's like 5th or 6th, somewhere in there. Sadea's got a couple. He went from 5-1 down to 5-3, so he's got a couple losses lately where the team hasn't put it all together for the last couple weeks and get a Josh Allen trade this week to maybe help correct that. So today's at 5-3, 2-3 in the division, leading the way in points. And then have the log jam here for the last playoff spot between Tank, Solomon, and Ryan. So they're all 3-5, and points are fairly close. Tank's up by a couple hundred points, which can swing in a week. And all those guys. So be an interesting race to the finish here, which I'll talk about a little more on the next slide. But week 8 matchups. We had some fun ones. So the super team takes on Jake. So the two first place teams are going to clash this week. So somebody is going to have 3 losses after this week. It'll be interesting to watch that one. Greg and Ryan are going to battle it out too. So Ryan's traded most of his stuff away. Greg gets his first win, so can Greg get some of that momentum to get to second win, give him maybe a glimmer of playoff hope or a reason to keep going. Corey and Sade battle, me and Solomon battle, and then Daggy and Tank too. So we are obviously all the games are out of the division this week, and be fun to see what happens. All right, next slide is just a look here at how things shape up for the rest of the season. So this might be a little bit hard to read, but some of the same information as before, but we'll just kind of run through each team here. So this excuse me, is looking at each team, what the record is, how many points they have, and then who they're playing for the next 6 weeks. So we have 6 weeks left of the regular season. The trade deadline will be before week 12. So we have 3 more weeks before the trade deadline. And what this is showing is who you're playing and then who you have on bye in those weeks. So I don't think I missed key players that are on bye, but I might have. And then at the end, it shows the record. That's the overall record of your opponents. So look at this. The super team has Jake Sade. He'll play Sade without Ken Walker and Brock Bowers, and plays me. And then gets Tank in week 12, and Tank will be without Burrow, Pitts, and Olave. And then gets Greg and Corey to close it out. And I add up everybody's record. He's got a 24-24 opponent record. So I have Solomon and then Corey, and I play the super team. I get the super team without Mayfield and Marv, which may or may not matter, but no McBride definitely matters. And then I get Sade in week 12 with no Chase or Drake London. Week 13 against Daggy, and then week 14 against Greg with no Mixon. So I'm at 23-25 for my opponent's records. Daggy gets Tank and Greg and Corey. He gets Corey without Kyler, which may or may not matter. He gets Ryan without Brees and Ingram in week 12. Plays me in week 13. And then gets Jake in week 14. Jake in 14 without Jaden Daniels and Ramondre. So Daggy's record is 22-26. Contrast that with Corey's 29-19 record. So that's an interesting look there too. Just strength of schedule definitely favors Daggy if the battle is just between those two guys. Corey gets Sade. He gets him this week without Kittle. He plays me next week with no Jacobs or Chubb. And then gets Daggy in week 11. Gets Jake in week 12 with no Cousins, Cooper, or Mooney. Solomon in week 12. And then gets a super team in week 14. So tough run there for Corey. By far the best record of what anybody has left, close with today, but by far the toughest. And then Greg has Ryan, plays him this week without Purdy, and then Daggy, and then Tank. He gets Tank without Connor and K. Dotton. Week 12 against Solomon, the super team in week 13, and then me in week 14 with no Taylor or Pittman or Andrews. So 24-24 for Greg. Over in Jake's division, Jake leading the way at 6-2, gets a super team this week, gets Ryan next week with no Njoku, gets Solomon in week 11, Corey in week 12, missing Kamara and Adams in 12, Sade in week 13, and then Daggy in week 14 without Lamar. And I can't place who Williams is right now, but look. Oh, that's Javante there. So Jake's opponents are 25-23. Today, second toughest schedule here. So he gets Corey, then the super team, and then Ryan without Neighbors. Plays me without Josh Allen and Bijan and Kincaid. Plays Jake in week 13, and then Tank in week 14 without Stroud, which may not matter. No Henry and no McLaurin. So 27-21 remaining opponent record for today. And then we have the collection of 3 and 5 guys who all have opponent records of 22-26. So Tank, Solomon, and Ryan. Here, this will be a fun one to watch as we go down the last 6 weeks here. So Tank gets Daggy, and then Solomon without Gino and Reed and Kraft, and gets Greg without Rashad White. May not matter, gets the super team without James Cook, and then Ryan in week 13, and Sade without Zay Flowers in week 14. Solomon has me this week, Tank next week with no Jordan Love, and then Jake without Chuba, Greg without Garrett Wilson and Khalil Shakir, and then Corey and Ryan to close it out. And then Ryan has Greg this week, gets Jake next week with no Jameis and no Elijah Moore, and then today in week 11, Daggy in week 12 with no Bigsby, no Chase Brown, Zach Moss either, and then Tank in week 13, and Solomon to close it out with no Tank Dell, no Zach Ertz. So that's kind of how things look. I just think it's interesting to look at who everybody plays and how bye weeks play into everything forward. So that's all I got for this week, and hopefully have a week 9 preview out this weekend. Talk to you guys later.